Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for your questions. So, I'm going to walk around the room. Who wants to go first? How do I navigate this? It's supposed to be advantages of being short.
All right, thank you very much. I've enjoyed myself and I've learned a lot. I've taken a lot of notes over here, so I appreciate that very much. My question quickly, my name is Mercy, is they say it's very lonely at the top, which would imply that you would be afraid to show who your true self is or your vulnerabilities because it's lonely at the top, right? But my question is, how do you deal with self-doubt? Do you have self-doubt and how do you deal with it? This is to each one of you.
All right, so I'll give that one to Sarah, but let me pick one other question first. Yes, please.
All right, thank you very much for the tips that you've given. They're amazing. Same, I was writing a lot of notes, so I think I'll have quite a bit to read today. My name is Murage Gishoke. I'm a marketing manager for a company called iColo.io. We are a data center. So I just want to ask anyone in the panel could answer this, or if you feel anyone who could answer this. If you were to go back to the beginning and start all over again today as a marketer, where would you start?
Right, I'm going to give that question to Andrew. So, Sarah, can I ask questions?
I think self-doubt, there's always self-doubt. I think the first time I was told I was going to be an MD for Mediacom, and I was like, oh shoot, I've not been in Kenya for 5 years, I was in Tanzania for 5 years. And I remember coming back and thinking, oh my God, I don't think the people I knew in media, they've already left. Like, I found a whole new set of leadership and I was just like, how is this going to happen? And self-doubt is normal. Actually, I tell myself, if I doubt, it means I need to find why am I doubting myself? What is that blind spot? How do I cover myself for the blind spot? How do I work towards covering that blind spot? But every time I self-doubt, I sit and I have a few people who are very close to me and I work with, and I talk to them because they allow me to beat my self-doubt. And there's a lady I work with, she works in Mediacom, she's called Marion, and every time I feel like, oh, I think I'm really doubting myself, I call Marion. You know, she's my person for self-doubt for years. And Marion is able to tell me, listen, you are the boss. You can do this thing. And it's very helpful to have people like that in your life who tell you, what's going on? Why are you doubting yourself? You can do it. Because sometimes you have the knowledge of everything, but self-doubt is not here, right? It's here. Yeah. So it's your head playing with your heart and just being like, oh, you know, maybe you can't, maybe you can't, or maybe I can. And you know, I always think the first time I was asked for to do a speaking engagement and I was speaking with him, it was my first ever keynote speech, and I was just I've never been so frightened my entire life that I made all my friends, they bought like 3 tables, I made them come. I said, if I look, I want to see people I know. And that's the only way I did that speech. And Amber Kalongo was saying, what do you mean? You're such, I'm like, no. I like talking in the boardroom where there are like 5 people, not in front of 400 people, marketers. What will I tell them? And I remember I made all my siblings come, all my friends, and they were sitting there, and they were the first 3 tables. So that every time I look down, I see them. And it helped me. It was my first ever speaking engagement. It helped me. So my self-doubt honestly has been helped by people who keep on reminding me that I can do it. And what I've learned as a leader is how do I keep on reminding my team that they can do it. And I've seen the power of affirmation, what it does to people. And sometimes you see someone who's really freaked out about something, and in 1 year, when you hear them speak, you're like, who's that? They've read the power of affirmation is very important. Surround yourself with people who affirm you and learn to affirm others. And as you learn to affirm others, you'll discover affirmation also comes back to you. But he has no self-doubt, so I think it's different. I have self-doubt all the time, but I've learned to tell myself, okay, I can do it. and then I go and do it. But more so, prepare. If it's something you're doubting yourself, especially an interview, a technical thing that you need to do, prepare. Be so ready that you have the information, and therefore all you're dealing with is getting your mind ready to deliver that information. I think there's a question about where to start.
And before you get there, I think it's good to say that chase away the self-doubt, Mercy. Get your team, your affirmation team in place, and believe in yourself and say, I can do it. Don't you agree, guys?
Yeah.
Yes? Can you affirm her?
She can do it.
Yay! All right, Andrew,
If I
what
had
would
to
you
do
change?
it
Yeah.
all over again, I would change nothing. And I'll tell you why. I left high school or campus a very meek individual. I left campus an individual who needed affirmation from others to be at a place where I could be better. And going to a place like Mombasa for the first time in my life on my own, I remember there was a place near Hunter's Lodge as I drove this car of mine, and my heart sank because I was like, I'm on my own. I was 23 as I drove down that road, and I was telling myself, I'm on my own and I'm starting life afresh. No friends, nothing, just go and kick it off. And I've been given this territory in Mombasa, and I'm like, will I ever make it? I got a bash. I mean, I was bashed left, right, and center. But that made me stronger. That made sure, the self-doubt left. I took crazy risks by going to Tanzania. It didn't work out for me, but that built me up. And because of what I went through at ExxonMobil, I one day just Googled and saw CIM, and I started my CIM class. Now, what guys don't realize is that when I opened the page first for CIM and I opened strategic marketing decisions, I never had that saying, give me mana. But that morning at Craft College in Westlands, I just said, give me mana. Mteja wa nambari ya simu hapatikani kwa sasa. But the interesting thing was, when the results came, I remember being called by someone and being asked, are you coming? I said, coming for what? And the person said, well, you were the best student in analysis and evaluation in the country. And I said, as in, I made it. So I realized I lost in one paper, but I was the best student in the other paper. And I realized I can do this. And went back to school until I finished. And so I tell people, sometimes the hard times you face in your life, God knows the last 6 months of this year have been the craziest in my life. But I tell people that stretching is really important, because it has helped me to build crazy capacities to think beyond what I ever thought I would think. I'm able to think really fast. I'm able to look at different angles of things and make decisions very quickly about life. So I wouldn't change anything, because they have helped me to get to where I am today. How did I get this job? So out of all that fear, out of that pushing, one day I'm seated somewhere and somebody tells me, do you know the person at DHL is leaving? Now 6 months before that, I wanted to be the country general manager for TNT. And somebody at TNT told me that you are too young in this position and you need a couple more years to be able to understand this business. And I hit the road running in terms of building my sales and my sales team. So 6 months into this job, or rather 6 months after that interview, I sent an application letter to a CEO in South Africa. He responds in less than 2 hours, and 3 weeks later, I'm the managing director of DHL Express. So there was no one talking about looking for an MD. It was just one of those things of just guts. And what did I do? When I went for the interview, I remember they asked me this question, and they said, so what will you do if you don't get this position? I said, well, the thing is DHL Express is the Mercedes for the industry. TNT is the Renault in this industry. But tell you what, I will drive behind you and I will wait for the day that you break down. And that day you will break down, I will be there to take everything from you. They gave me the job. You know? So, you know, again, it's just that boldness in terms of, and I remember they kept asking me, so what are your numbers? What are you doing at TNT? They wanted a lot of information. I told them, respectfully, I'm not crazy. I cannot give you information that will ruin me tomorrow if I don't get this job. So I am sticking with my numbers. If you give me this job, we can have a different conversation later. But until then, I keep my numbers. So guys, just the key thing about this is just remember, those experiences you have, sometimes even those ones that really put you to the point of breaking, remember it's critical you get there because that changes your dynamics for life. And for me, it has changed my dynamics as far as life is concerned. So back to you, I would change nothing.
He wouldn't change a single thing. Is that not a song? Okay, another question.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here. My name is Eunice Ayuma. I work with a company that does executive coaching, and I'm also a beneficiary of the Liz Ntunjira Network. I recently read a book about culture. It was written by Reed Hastings, the founder and CEO of Netflix. And he told his story from how he founded Netflix and how he changed the culture of Netflix from day one up to 26 years as it is right now. My question to you, ladies and gentlemen of the panel, what is the one thing you changed the culture of the companies that you work in right now? And how did that change the numbers?
Wow. All right. I'm going to give Charles that question, but before we get there, I want to pick a few other questions.
Thanks so much for taking your time to share your experiences with us. My name is John Mwanthi. I run a company called Walt & Walt out of home. We are a media agency. My question is, and I think it goes to everyone except Andrew, who has been having a good time during COVID. As a CEO, how do you handle real fear? Take for example the time of COVID. You know COVID is here, you're losing business, you're going to have to lose part of your team. As a human, away from all the experience and all the bookwork that you have done, and all the theory that you have had out there, this is real fear, you are scared. How did you handle it? And what do you think from your experiences is the best way to handle real fear as a CEO? Thanks.
Right, before I allocate that question, we have one on this side. And this side of the room, there are no questions. I'm coming there.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kimani, and I work with a company called Calstick that I founded a couple of months ago. 7 team members. We are into strategic communications, which is what I started at the University of Nairobi. But I'm also the executive editor of Invask magazine. It's a business publication that I've run for the last 5 years. And we are also the host of the Agile East Africa CEO's Breakfast. So my question is about CIM. It's something that is coming out strongly from the panelists. And there is CIM and there is CIPR. And interestingly, I'm in the middle of making a decision between whether to take CIPR or CIM, and I received both curriculums on 28th June. So I would love to know between whether there is any one of you have done the two of them and the benefits of either. What is it that CIM or CIPR do to you that any other curriculum that you have taken that has not done to you? Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to give the question on fear. Yes, I'm coming. There's some hands on that end. Let's deal with these three first. The question on fear and how do you handle your staff humanely, I'm going to give it to Barbara. Any CIPR people here? No? I think they CIPR?
There's someone in the room here.
Oh yes, of course. Indeed. All right, let's go with the culture. Let's go with the culture question first. Charles.
Okay, thank you very much about the culture question. You know, we say today culture is everything. Yeah, people have defined culture in many ways, but simply we say culture is how we do things around here. And I know there are many models around culture, the iceberg model, you know, but I want to just simplify it, you know, by saying, you know, it's how we do our things around here, but it's what defines the core of the organization. And probably I can, if we had time, I'll give my whole story about culture change in an organization, but I'll try to summarize it. I mean, I joined an organization where, you know, you see a lot of things that are probably not working. And number one, you know, where people have those rooms, everybody has their office. And I remember one of the things I did, and the staff were very unhappy about me, is to create an open office. Okay, I just got a contractor and I said, you're going to break down all the walls and have an open office that people sit the way we are seated in the office. And people are coming to me telling me, you know, me, I handle very confidential data for the company. I say, all of us want to hear about that confidential data. Okay? And one of the things I wanted to do is people to sit like this. And because we were doing, you know, partial, you know, construction, my contractor called me one day on a Saturday and told me, now I understand what you're doing. Because what you used to do, he would break the two, you know, offices. Then you'll ask the guy next, can you give me the number of this person in this other office so that I can call them and tell them how to, you know, how I'm going to keep their staff. The guy will say, I don't have their number. So he told me, now I can understand what you're trying to change. Because people are living in their silos. You know, me, I'm an accountant, I'm in this department, and people not talk to each other. Number one, I told people, I want you guys to face and look at each other. You hate each other until you start liking each other. And then the next thing, when we started, you'll find a lot of people, we used to find at the, you know, at the stairs, people going out to make calls. Okay? And I told people, you know, you'll make calls until you get used to everybody and start making calls in the office. Because, you know, most of those calls are the gossip calls. You know, you want to call and say, you know, this is a new manager, you know, what he's telling us. And I told guys, you know, one of the things of, you know, making people to focus on the business and talk about numbers, you know, and what brought them to the organization is when you also start creating some of those things. But we had many other programs, you know, for culture change. I got some guys who are also doing team building, and I told them, I want to take you through something probably that you've never done. I want to take my team throughout the year through a program of culture change. There are certain things we want to, you know, I call them to drop some bad manners and, you know, introduce some new things in the organization, but do it having fun. So we did it in form of team building. One of the things I was trying to do is that, you know, people resist change. So we have to create fun around it. So we take people out, like it's team building, but you have a very clear program and activities that are, you know, done towards changing certain behaviors in the organization. So, because for me, those are the things that, you know, one of the things we want to create, you know, an organization that people are focused on delivering, you know, value to the organization and what brought them, okay? And also a culture of teamwork where people work with each other, people support each other, people engage with each other, you know, people don't have, you know, that thing of them and us, okay? So make sure that people work together. In terms of numbers, and every time I know sometimes I do lectures at Strathmore, sometimes I even share people, you know, to show them the impact of culture in an organization. Yeah, I mean, even my own, you know, board could not believe. I remember, you know, within 2 years, when they look at the turnaround in terms of numbers, so they asked me, they want to know what is this story about numbers. And you know, when sometimes you tell people about culture, they're wondering, oh, only culture. So I had to do a whole presentation. So what I used to do, and I do the same, I'll go to the board and I'll give them their numbers. Andrew knows that those guys just want to see numbers. But then I'll have another 2-3 slides. I'll write, you know, the story behind the numbers. So that you can show people, you know, what you've done to drive those numbers. Okay, and this is very important for marketers, because sometimes I see people fighting to get your marketing budget. Then you just get annoyed that the finance people or, you know, the budget didn't go through. We must find ways of, you know, getting things and, you know, presenting it in a way that other people can understand. That you can say this is what, you know, the story that you want to do, marketing, and this is the impact you want to make, but this is now the impact in terms of numbers. So, yeah, I tell people one day I'll write a book about culture, because it's a whole, you know, process of changing. But if you ask about numbers, it has real impact. Because one of the things that I tell people, especially, you know, before we started working from home, I used to ask my staff, you know, how many hours do you spend in the office versus the number of hours you spend with your, you know, family at home? Okay, so you find we used to spend most of the time in the office. Can you imagine if you have an unhappy environment in the office? Yeah, your life will just be unhappy even when you go home. So you must create, happiness. And I remember when I went to the company, I told people I want to bring happiness in this organization, and people are looking at me, what does that mean? And today they remind me, the first day you came and told us you want to bring happiness, because you tell people you must enjoy what you do. But as leaders, you also must create the right environment for the people you work with. Yeah, people feel empowered, they feel valued, they feel trusted. Yeah, and then you can see the numbers. But that's a whole process of trying to transform and creating the right culture in an organization.
All right, so creating happiness, clearly Cook was onto something when they had a few things to say about that. So Barbara, tell us about, very, very briefly please, we want to pick as many questions as we can, but we are running short on time. Tell us, how do we humanely deal with people in a situation where we are facing fear?
Well, I believe that question has come from an entrepreneur. Yes, we face fear on almost a daily basis. It's become like the norm, especially in this season of COVID. If you look at myself, I remember the day the first case of COVID was announced is the day my baby also arrived. So sometimes I say entrepreneurship can be a kiosk. Yeah, when you're not there, when you want to go to the bathroom, you have to close it. Then you come back. When you go to your kiosk in the estate, you're told, ametoka kidogo. Sometimes business can feel like that, because as an entrepreneur, you want to be a perfectionist, and sometimes you feel when you're not there, things don't happen. So you can imagine in my case, with the arrival of a new baby, you're called, there are some businesses you had in the pipeline, clients have withheld their businesses because of all this panic, people are rushing to shop, everything is happening, you have to make some drastic decisions in the business, and it's quite scary. It's been a quite scary season for me, and I believe other entrepreneurs. What has really helped me in this season to remain grounded? Two things. One is have a team of advisory. People you can trust and call and ask, this is what's happening, what do I do? Because sometimes making decisions like sending your team on unpaid leave, those are tough decisions, because these are people with families. This is the time they also need to rush to the supermarket to shop, and here you are sending them on unpaid leave. So I've learned to have a team of people who can advise me and guide me in the business, and I'm also a Christian. Yeah, COVID has drawn me to my knees. So whenever I'm fearful, I go on my knees, and God gives me strength to carry on. Yes. So that is basically how I've managed it in this season.
All right, thanks for that answer. We had a question around CIM or CIPR?
Both.
Or do both?
Yeah.
You could do both, yes. How about that? Or you don't like that answer? Liz, you can give us a word or two about CIPR?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, my name is Liz Ntonjira. I have done CIPR, a proud alumni of CIPR, and soon doing CIM. I think it depends with you. What are you passionate about? I believe right now we're doing a lot of integrated marketing communications. I think Andrew and Sarah can agree with that. It's about sales promotion, it's about advertising, it's about public relations. All those, I like to say marketing and communications are like fraternal twins. One cannot do without the other. So it's up to you, and I would encourage you, just as Tweety has mentioned, to do both. It doesn't hurt. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Andrew, I'm sure would you like to add something, seeing as the CIM and CIPR in the same house?
You know me, I'm CIM down.
All right, CIM down, right. Next question. This one has been burning.
Good evening. I'm Haki Washira. I work for Hako Industries in Marketing. So my question is, over the last about 1.5 months, I took a decision to start mentoring and coaching people in marketing and comms, and specifically around the area of interview preparation, how to move from one stage to the other, how to prepare, because I realized that people were coming to the table not very well prepared or not very clear about it. One of the saddest thing, and just come through quite a bit, is they're moving because marketing has kind of become a dumping ground. I've had that from quite a number of people. And the things they would say is our leaders are disconnected, marketing is given all the stuff that no other department will touch, especially in FMCG, stuff like that, you know. And I got a bit worried because it means then that either there is a disconnect between your level and the directors and heads of marketing, or it's between the directors and heads of marketing and the teams under them. And if that continues, then we kind of run into a risk. Because then the reason people are giving for moving is, I just want a happier job. I just want a happier space. So many people asking me to redo their CVs to move to comms, please. You know, they think it's a better space, you know. So what can you do at the C-suite level to do this? Because if we lose these marketers, there won't be this forum in another 10 to 15 years. There won't be any marketers who become CEOs because they have run away from it.
I can see why it was burning. Yes, so Charles, I'll throw that one to you. What can you do at your level to ensure that there is a connect between those who are in marketing leadership and those who are aspiring to be marketing leaders? Before you answer.
Hi, my name is Angel Katusia. I lead communication for a non-government organization that does maternal and newborn advocacy based in Washington. But I'm a journalist by training and a marketer by association and working at agency for about 3 years. Amazing stories I'm hearing from you guys, and yeah, but we have a lot of, sorry to say, crappy campaigns or crappy work that we are seeing out here. So Charles, today I saw a billboard, I don't know by which organization, it doesn't have a name. And they're saying, ladies, do you have an issue with sexual reproductive health? It's not a ladies' issue. So of course there is a crappy level of, so do you guys, are you smart and your juniors who create the work are not smart? Or how do you, because are we agreeing that there's some crappy artworks and billboards out in the streets? Yes. But the bosses are here and they look like amazing people who are doing amazing jobs. And my second question is, when do you guys plan to leave? When do you know when you are ready to leave? Because we are talking about how these people in this room are going to be CEOs. And so we also need to know when are we ready to be CEOs, because we need the gap to be created. As a CEO having served for 10 years or 14 years, when do you know what to leave? And my last question, after CEO, then what? What are your plans?
Okay.
This is the journalists coming out. So those crappy campaigns, including that one on women and sexual health. By the way, my 7-year-old read that billboard and said, "Mom, what is sex?" And yeah, that was an interesting conversation. So Sarah, I guess the crappy campaigns, you'll be able to give us some insights. Andrew, you can tell us when you're planning to leave, because she clearly wants your job. And there were some questions down on this end.
Hi, my name is Flora from Brand Asset. I just wanted to focus on rainy days when you have a lot of pressure from the board and the investors. How do you get to refocus, and how do you get to create a balance so that you don't lose focus on your main goal or your vision?
All right, staying with the focus, and I think there was a question, one more here.
Good evening, my name is Vanessa Ngunjiri, and I'm recently just finishing school with a BA in International Relations and Diplomacy. Now the thing with IR is that it literally cuts across, so you are a jack of many trades, but then I think the trick is in finding out how much can you master. So I'm here trying to master marketing. All right, my question is, with the era of technology, how do you guys think you can better improve or you can better master yourselves to put yourself in a better place with the tools that you can use right now, seeing as when the pandemic came, we literally majored on technology so much. And my other question is, how do you deal with complacency? Of course, and I think from the state of our country that you come from, we are always wanting to aim for more, but then at some point you are a bit comfortable. So how do you deal with that? And it would be very interesting to also know, to also answer Lydia's question, when do you guys know when it's time to leave, and what happens after you leave what you've done for 15, 20 years? Thank you.
Okay, so we'll double up the question that Charles had about the future of the young marketers and how we can continue inspiring them with the question on complacency, so that maybe you can take that together. And then there was a question on how to stay focused during tough times, and I think I'll give that one to Barbara. All right, Charles.
Okay, I think there's been many questions that have been asked. I'll probably answer one and touch on the others. I think it's for what she has asked. I've been a judge for MSK for the marketing campaigns for the last 4 years. And I think for me, the reason I decided to become a judge, I was a judge for 2 years, deputy chief judge and a chief judge for one of the years. I think it's also to try and help, change, what was coming out in some of the campaigns, and probably also see how we also give people feedback, because we try to create a session where, other than the judging, as judges, we'll also organize for a session to give people feedback, in terms of what we think need to improve in terms of, the kind of campaigns that they're running. I remember what Sarah said when you were asked to give some talk in one of Marketing Africa's dinner. The topic was I was given was on marketing dilemma, and I remember I did a presentation on some of the things people are doing, especially on billboards. And I remember I gave examples of some of the billboards that they also need to create some space where you can park your car to read what is on the billboard, or probably provide some seat. Because you see the write-up that is on the billboard, you've won, ISO certification, we are the first company, and you look at the kind of things people are writing. And I remember people are laughing because I said I don't want to mention anybody's billboard, but you can see a lot of things that people are doing. Sometimes I avoid to mention people's because I don't know who is the owner of those brands, but I think we can talk about the concept. But one of the things I want to say, and probably even as I'm answering her question in terms of what you want to do, also to mentor the young marketers and create bigger conversation and bigger space for marketing in this country. And probably one of the reasons why I decided to take up the role of chairmanship of MSK is, even if you're not going to deliver anything for our board this next 2 years, is to deliver a charter for MSK and an act of parliament. So can you have a voice that we can change marketing and how it is done in this country? And I can assure you, with the support of marketers, because we reach out to other marketers in terms of their input of what they want to see in that bill, that's one of the things we want to do, to create the right space, so that also we also recognized by government, with an act of parliament, so that we can have a voice, to change things. Because sometimes, and I know there has been a lot of discussions, sometimes what the government is doing, there was a lot of conversation about how we are marketing our country and the kind of people we are picking to market our country. But you see, as MSK, because we don't have, a legal standing, there's nothing we can do about it. But we want to get into that national space, that we can influence how marketing is done, and then just get also into the space of what kind of training is being done. Then we reach out even to training institutions, and then also get now to engage and mentor. And even as MSK, we're already starting a program for mentoring for young marketers. We have a committee completely dealing with that, so that you can also look at how we create, real conversations around that. And I don't think it is that easy. I don't think it's a solution that we can say this is what we are doing. I think we need bigger and more conversation. I think we were discussing even among the panelists that we also need to create a forum, even for marketers who've been there for many years, so that you also see what input you are going to do and inspire, marketers. Some of us, I think when you were doing marketing, it was the cost to be, it was the thing to do that time. Yeah. For us, I think when you're in campus, seeing, the likes of, ELDL and all the companies coming to recruit us when you're in campus, knowing that you're not even going to go and tarmac, it was a very exciting thing then. But I think there's a lot of mentoring, and I can tell you for me where I see it, because I don't just manage marketing, I can see it across. I've interviewed people who have probably 3 different, degrees, not related. I'm a doctor. I did my first degree in, medicine, but I also done, I did another degree, and I'm doing my, I'm doing CPA, and I'm doing a diploma in IT. Somebody is just all over. So you ask them, of course, sometimes you trick them and tell them, I have those 3 positions. Actually, you are lucky, those 3 positions are there. So which one would you want to change? This one you applied for, and you can see the person now looking at you a bit confused, and you wonder. And it is also doing another master's in public health, and you wonder, first of all, education is not cheap, plus also the time. But I think there's a lot that we need to do in terms of career mentoring, and 3T knows this, especially linkage between industry and the people who are training, and colleges, universities. I know a lot of people are doing those things because you need to make money, but you also need to engage and have proper linkage between industry and the people who are studying. I think that to me is one of the things that we need to work on, but also create a forum, a national forum for mentorship. Yeah, so an MSK, we are trying to create that platform.
Thank you, Charles. I know we are doing very, very badly on time because we have curfew to think about, and I know Victor has something that he needs to show us before we leave. So I'm going to ask Andrew to tell us in 1 minute when he's planning to leave DHL.
I think what everyone will tell you when you become a CEO, a managing director, is you can leave anytime. Anytime. Every day you walk in, there is no guarantee you'll be in that office at the end of the day. It's a fact. Because of the many issues. You are dealing with board politics, you are dealing with office politics, you are dealing with external issues. And so many times what I tell people is prepare. So for me, one of the things I have done is that DHL has been an amazing place for me to grow. And so can I tell you I want to leave tomorrow? No. I think I'm still on a high. And every year you get into the business and you still make money and you make profit better than the other year. They will tell you you want another year better than the year that was. And so it's just one of those things that has to keep on happening. But one of the things you also have to begin to do is to mentor and have people who are going to be your successors. So have I started doing that? Yes. Because it's not just about how long, anything could happen, particularly during these COVID times. So it's important also not to be selfish about wanting to be there forever. It's also making sure that you're giving people the opportunity to move. And I also want to grow. DHL is an international company, and there are other opportunities elsewhere globally. So there are other areas you can also proceed to. I've done my 6 years, and certainly if I got another opportunity to go out of here, I would. I think it's just a question of time. And there are also other opportunities in the market as well. So you never know. But what would I do after if I left? Siasa. Yes, yes, it's a good place to be. Can you imagine you wake up in the morning and nation guys, there are cameras there, and you just say, Nani ni ng'ombe. Whole week, it's trending on Twitter, Motuma na ng'ombe. It's an amazing place to be. Why not?
Sarah, I think you need to hire this guy in your creative copywriting department. I'm not going to 1 minute, just a minute for your response. I know it's too short, but
make it short though. I think crappy campaigns, I think, I'm in advertising. Every time I'm, watching TV is painful because of every ad you see and how bad you feel about it. And I always say bad campaigns are developed by an agency and a client together, right? So good work is the result of an agency and a client being in the same space. Bad work is a result of two people who are not in the same space. And I think as an agency person, for me, I always say if you're an agency person, your biggest job about ensuring you're creating good campaigns is challenging your client and challenging yourself. And being willing to tell the client, this is not going to work, right? So please, it's not going to, if they say yes, if they say no, whatever, but being able to challenge your client. But being a brand person or a brand manager, I think the biggest question is asking yourself, who am I selling to? The oldest ad man, Ogilvy, always said that the most famous quote was, the consumer is not foolish, she's your wife, right? I mean, you have read Ogilvy in advertising. That is the biggest thing he ever said. The consumer is not foolish or stupid, they're your wife or your husband. So when you're doing this work, who are you doing it for? Who is this foolish consumer you've decided to do this work for? And I think every time I see billboards or creative that don't make sense, I wonder how many, media is expensive. Media is one of the most expensive things in marketing, right? And you're like, so we've spent this much money running this campaign, and I think it's because half the time we don't have the data to tell us that campaign didn't work. And I think I always tell every client, track your campaign, and then you'll know whether the creative you put out worked or didn't work. Go out there and ask, make sure you've checked whether your campaign worked or it didn't work. I think I still remember that AAR campaign. Do you guys remember it, that had AAR and then the... Do you guys remember it? Yeah. Right? It was such a simple communication, but you remember it till today. So if you check and people, some of the campaigns we think are bad, like Maziwa, what was that? Molo milk. Do you remember the Molo cow milk? I remember speaking to that client. No, it wasn't. You remember the old lady? No. Ngombe, the Ngombe one. Yeah. And I remember asking the client, and they said their sales went up with 15%. Their target was right. You thought that maybe I thought the ad was not good, but I wasn't the audience, right? So sometimes advertising is about the right target, the right advertising. So I'm sure you saw Betika in this campaign with the Ugali man. It's not talking to me, right? They're talking to a very different audience, and that audience believes in what this campaign looks like. So all audience, I'm not the target. But always ask yourself, am I talking to my target in the way they understand their messaging? If my target gets the messaging, but beyond everything, your messaging must be simple. Because no one wants to spend a lot of time reading advertising. As much as we think people want to, they don't want to.
Okay, 30 seconds for Barbara to tell us, how do we stay focused in these challenging times? When things are hard, how do we stay focused?
Well, it's just knowing your business objective and working towards them. Even when it is hard, you try and navigate through the storm, and you keep your eye on the balls. So every day you look at, this is the agenda that's set for the business at the beginning of the year. You keep track of where am I at, what do I need to do to get to the next level. So you just keep at it. You keep at it.
Okay, perseverance. Keep going no matter what. We've come to the end of our session. Join me in thanking Andrew, Sarah, Charles, and Barbara. Have any other questions for them, I'm sure you can find them on social media and they will be happy to engage with you. And I want to leave you with a quote, even as I request the panelists to move onto the sides to allow the audience to see the presentation. And the quote I want to leave you with is on leadership, and it says, if your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and to become more, then you are a leader. So ladies and gentlemen, a challenge to you, you do not have to be in a CEO position to be a leader. You can be a leader right where you are. But that doesn't mean you don't aspire to be a CEO. I hope today's session has given you insights on growing from marketing to CEO.
Thank you so much, 3T. Good evening. My name is Wesley. I'm the organizing secretary for Top Marketers Club. And right now, I'd like to invite our president of the club. He's called Victor Mutua. I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, know him. So Victor, please take the stage before we close. Victor is going to. Victor actually put this whole thing together because I've not been in the country, and our colleague has also been tied with some new beginnings in his life. So all this, everything you see here today is Victor.
There is no I in team, so I guess it's a group effort. So yeah, in the interest of time, I don't want to miss you guys at the next event. I know we had a presentation lined up, but hey, there's always another event. So I just want to thank the panelists for today, the CEOs who've been able to make this time. And this is an observation I have made. Marketing CEOs are very easy to get to. Very easy compared to the other CEOs. So it was just a matter of a phone call. They're very approachable. So I guess that's a good thing for the marketing CEOs. Just a text, hey, what do you think about this? And they're like, yeah, I'm game. So these are the kind of CEOs we'd want for the people who are moving from this level to this other level. So I guess they deserve a round of applause for being that.